Hello, everyone, and welcome to another disclosure in the media. This is going to be on the Legend of Zelda game series with Richie McGreevy today. We're going to tell a little bit of the disclosure that's been left in the Zelda series. So take it away, Richie.
Hello, everyone. So the series originally started in 1986, but its chronological timeline began with one of the its later game, Skyward Sword. So in order to do this, to do it, do the story in order, we'll have to start from this one. But we're going to begin with the creation of the law of the land and how it all came to be. So the world was created by the three goddesses during the time of chaos. Din, the goddess of power, created the land. Nehru, the goddess of wisdom, created order. Thanor, goddess of courage, created diverse inhabitants. Upon leaving this world, the goddess is left behind the Triforce, three golden triangles. It is said that and it is said that any it is said that any wish that the possessor of the Triforce desires will come true. So anyone who touches the Triforce, they get to make a grant a wish.
Looks like the
The
June.
Triforce grants wishes to those who touch it. Since the Triforce does not distinguish between good or evil, it allows both good and bad wishes. A strong heart, inher- inheritability, and a balance of the three virtues, power, wisdom, and courage, are required to be granted a wish. If one who does not possess the balance of the three virtues touches the Triforce, the pieces will split apart. The finder is left with the piece of that which personifies what he or she values most. The other two pieces will appear on the hands of two individuals chosen by the will of the goddesses. One must reunite the three pieces in order to obtain true power. In this world was created by the goddesses. They did not intend to unite the regions of this world, but instead let the inhabitants have free reign of the land. In this world, the three goddesses left behind to the opulent Triforce. This leads us on to the ancient battle with Hylia. During an era of the goddess Hylia, the many demons arose in pursuit of the Triforce. The leader of the Demise, a demon king, tried to take over the world with his evil powers. After the battle against the demonic forces, Hylia gathered the humans who had survived along with the Triforce into a plot of land and sent it into the sky. She positioned a heavy barrier of clouds between the lands in the sky and the land below to protect the humans and the Triforce. The goddess and the remaining tribes on the surface battled their lives against the demons. They were victorious and they sealed him away. The land, the land was saved, but the seal that kept the demon king imprisoned was weak. In an attempt to destroy the demise, the goddess Helia tried to use the power of the Triforce. However, a goddess cannot wield its power. Thus, the goddess Helia decided to renounce her divinity and be reborn as a human. With Holia's passing, Impa of the Sheikah tribe was entrusted of the Sheikah was entrusted of reborn tribe was entrusted. Yeah, Sheikah Sheikah was entrusted with watching over the seal prison of the Demon King until she returned. So Healy returned and
Mhm.
right. Okay, right. Demise, Demon King. It is said that Demise, the most evil of all evil, who commands enough power to destroy the world, appears in appears in each era, game eras, and looks different to each person who sees him. His ultimate goal is to obtain the Triforce and take over the land with his demonic minions. Surface tribes, there was non-human tribes such as Stony and Gorons on the surface at this point. So there was no humans on the surface at this point in time.
Mhm.
The Sheikah tribe, one of the Sheikah tribes who serve the goddesses of Helia, they are blind. They're both individuals chosen by the goddesses to watch over the Seal Demon King. The rule has been passed on from one generation to the next. The land of Helia, the center of the world, where the temple of Helia was built. This is where the god does. This is where the goddess Helia gathered surviving humans into the plot of land and sent them into the sky. It is here also where the Demon King was sealed away, which is why the land became known as the Sealed Grounds, and the Temple of Helia as the Sealed Temple. So that's basically the gods. Oh, the goddesses Din, Nehru, and Furon each left crests behind. Each of these symbols, you can crests of power, wisdom, courage, can be found in locations in the rich respective god. So the crest of Jin, the crest of Nehru. I don't know if Chris can get this up.
Yeah, yeah.
There's Christopher Farrar.
This is a good representation of basically a jinn or a genie in a lamp. I came to find out. Well, the Orions use triangles quite a bit for some of their oppressive magic and everything. The bastardization of the power of three, which also goes with the three of the jinn, and also what you were describing, locking a demon in the sky. I've actually seen this technique before where
he was locked in a temple, the seal.
Locked in a temple. But also I've seen this in Sky and Earth, where you can lock a demon in like in a building, cube, narrative, spell. You can create barriers around them. But with the power of three, with the Triforce, it's interesting where it's more neutral. And this is also, people are shocked when I say this, but more like not benevolent source creator, but source creator itself is more of a neutral base, where if you tap into a particular energy, it can amplify for whomever uses it. Necessarily mean good or evil, because there really isn't, except in human perception, a basis of good and evil, light and shadow. That duality. So that makes sense that the Triforce would be outside of that purview, and also the fact that they were describing where the barrier between worlds, that's like the firmament, or the barrier between dimensional realities.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So that's one of how the creation of Skyloft came to be. Well, some of the more Skyloft was created. Yeah. The Skyloft and the Legend of the Goddesses, the plot of higher ascent to the Isles of the God. The plot of land Hylia sent into the sky became known as the Isles of the Goddess. The islands in the sky where the surviving humans dwell became known as Skyloft. The humans lived in with the guardian birds known as the Loftwings, given to them by Hylia. Only a few individuals on the surface knew of the existence of the goddesses and the Skyloft. After a few thousand years, their story was forgotten and became a legend.
Oh, that's actually interesting what you said about that. There was also a download I got several months ago on this. Let's see. Okay, see if I can find a thing on okay, here we go. I'm going to go into, let's see. There's a section that we haven't talked about yet in this particular series, but I'm going to use this anyway. We haven't mentioned it quite yet, but let's see. Well, I'm going to see where I can start on my download. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here we are. The main item in the Legend of Zelda game series is the Triforce. It was fragmented into 3 triangles, as I've said: Triforce of Wisdom, Triforce of Power, and the Triforce of Courage. Denoting human power was fragmented into virtues. This goes back to biblical lore, and also the jinn lore, had to be reclaimed as one. Corruption of the power of three. The green or golden triangles have been often used on humans as etheric implants to divide one within the self, as well as divide the body on the base of elemental level. Hyrule, Hy-Brazil, also Hyperborea, a sunken island off the coast of Ireland where the royalty was said to watch from an island that no one could get to but could see. When the first humans were able to get there, they found creatures such as unicorns and mysterious cryptids. The masters of the island were said to not want to mix with the local human population for fear of contaminating their genome. What I came to also find out is the island of Hyperborea, which is still there. It's still in a dimensional pocket, but there are aspects of Hyperborean Atlantis that rose into the sky as a sky city. So that's part of actual galactic history that was put in there after what you just mentioned about the one was considered the kingdom of the gods or the land of the gods. That's what Hyperborea is. And yeah, that they were mentioning basically Atlantis, Hyperborea, and Hy-Brazil kind of all thrown into that mixture. That's from what I see there. When knowing some of the galactic history and then some of the ancient history, you can see where they've wedged some of that in there. They may have called it different things. Also, what was it? High Rule. Let me see here what I said. Okay. Yes, Hy-Brazil, Hyperborea, Land of the Giants, Elves, and Gods, Atlantis. Let me see. Hy-Brazil had fairies and elves with a glow to them, shining ones. Tuatha De Danann also cannot mix with us because of their density level. Let me see here. Okay. They must be clothed or shielded from our density and us from theirs. The Rendlesham Forest incident, whereas a UFO from the future, quote unquote, uploaded knowledge to a man who channeled the information into binary code, which gave the coordinates of Hy-Brazil. High also referring to the Sky City or Olympus, if you will, like the stories of Atlantis and Lemuria. Part of Hyperborea sank and part of it ascended into the sky as the Sky City. Link, Boy Elf, that's the main character. A Link to the Past, it's a later game we'll talk about, involving different dimensional pockets and portals and parallel areas and dimensions, very much like Hyperborea and Atlantis are now, even as we speak. Elves in our history, basically the story of the Tuatha De Danann and the early Irish are also being depicted in this as well, in a loose fashion.
Even Ganon actually does it mean fair hair or something?
What would you say, Ben?
Ganon in Irish, in Gaelic, means fair hair, doesn't it?
Fair haired, yeah. So that would be like some of the Tuatha De Danann were red haired and blonde haired, as well as some of the different elementals that existed, like some of the banshee types and some of the fairy elemental types, as well as some of the Venusian tribes as well that came to Earth and contributed to that genome. We were just talking about that on Interstellar Council yesterday. So that the fact that actually came up. And Ganon, being a being that later on when he morphed from Ganondorf to Ganon, and he became this demon-like figure. He was short and fat and had kind of like a fish pig-like appearance in a way. Some pictures depict him as having whiskers, kind of like a fish. Other ones I've noticed seem to depict him as a pig. These are actually two. One of them is more of a demon type in Japanese myth and lore, and another one is a galactic type that is more of a guardian of knowledge, which then would stem back to the guardians of like Hy-Brazil, Hyperborea, Kingdom of the Gods. It kind of would stem to that. That's kind of the download I'm getting right now. It's all intermixed, where they've kind of mishmashed everything together in one character, morphing from the dark, from light to dark, sort of thing. Actually, Ganondorf was never really light. He always had ambitions, but it was more like the quest for that power. But yeah, that's the download I'm getting, mixed with what I got months ago when we were mentioning the concept of this show. That was the whole download that I got about the Sky City and everything. And then you mentioned the history of of that. So it matches up. You had never told me that before. I had never read the book you were reading from. And I made sure to wait until you showed talked about that. I knew the history was going to be in there to some extent. So to anybody watching this show, sometimes I don't look into the stuff. Sometimes I will wait until I've heard something, and then it ends up coinciding with download or actual galactic history. So we can continue on now, Richie, if you like.
Yep, sure, yeah. The goddess Helia's reincarnation, Zelda, which I think that's I think it's Gaelic for meaning. I think it means timeless beauty, if I'm correct. I could be wrong on that. Yeah. So as the seal of demise, as the as the seal of demise, the demon king began to weaken. A human girl was born. That girl was named Zelda, and she was the goddess Helia reincarnated. Zelda grew up in the beautiful. Sorry, people.
Yeah, I
Zelda grew up
today,
to be
so
a beautiful. Yeah. Zelda grew up to be a beautiful woman who was chosen to play the role of the goddess for the wing ceremony at the Knight Academy. Skillfully handling her crimson loftwing, Link was victorious in his year's wing ceremony and so won the honor of performing the ceremony of the goddess opposite Zelda. So basically, it was like he won some trials and he gets to play a part with her sort of thing. And there's also a romance in this game with them too as well.
mm-hmm.
Right.
One would say that there's also a concept called an Orion wedding as well, and many people don't know what this concept is. Where there are some souls that are usually dark that will come in and play a role in history. I'm not saying that what you just said was this is like a mirror of what you just said.
Yeah.
This is there's a concept where these two darker souls will come in, Orion, and they will find a third person more or less like as a more of like a victim in some weird triangle. And there goes back to the triangle again. And they will corrupt the soul mission of that particular individual through some contract these two have. And what you just said is like the light version of that, where Link being the elf, some Orions or some of these darker elf-looking forms, and Zelda being the human. Now, in this would be more or less a happy version of what happened in history with the earlier humans and the Tuatha De Danann and the elves. The early Irish thought they defeated the Tuatha De Danann and they thought they kicked them out of Ireland. But in fact, the Tuatha just went to another dimensional pocket and just said, "Yeah, haha, you believe we defeated us."
Yeah.
But with this is more like somebody's view of trying to bring elf and human back together in more of a unified front. This is kind of what I'm picking up is there was turmoil early on between the Tuatha and the ones known as Fomorian or different Orions from Orion warring at the time. Humans got caught in the middle of that. So this seems to be more of a light form of what I just said, trying to reunify. That's the download that I got.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I'll talk about the Dead Wing ceremony.
Mhm.
Yeah. The exam that allows students to academically advance in the Knight Academy, the one who rides their Loftwing skillfully enough to obtain the bird statue before the others become a champion and advance to the senior years.
Mhm.
Yeah. The champion of the wing ceremony receives a gift of the sailcloth from the individual playing the goddess, Zelda. The sailcloth is used to end the ritual. When the winner it demonstrates their courage by leaping off the preface and opening the cloth. Well, they leap off the edge and they have to like glide with it, so they have to show their courage, whether
Yeah.
they show how courageous they can be. Leaping off the edge, open the cloth, at the last moment to glide safely to the ground. The goddess role is played out oh, sorry about that. The goddess's role is played out just as it always has been since the ancient times. This year, the 25th anniversary of the Knight Academy, the silver cloth is given to the champion atop of the statue of the goddess.
Okay.
Sorry if I'm not there, folks. Something's not always talk. I'm also getting real cotton mouth as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this also reminds me of a lot of the different goddess worship that has been put in play by the different cabal factions, where they honor different goddesses and different female forms, and that there are rituals and initiations that go with that. That just depends on which family, which group. But with this was just denoting courage, like who is more worthy. This kind of just adds in the more worthy type of
Yeah, essentially.
yeah. This is that's what I get from that. There wasn't much of a download I got from that. It was just more or less on the goddess worship.
Yeah. Right. They do have their own language and alphabet in Helia. These characters date back to the time when the goddess Helia was governing the land. It can be found on pedestals and statues of the goddess. It's a mixture. It looks like an Oriental mixture of language. But yeah, they have their own language. I don't think it means translates to anything in English, but it's just yeah, a bit of additional.
Does
The
it
night.
does it resemble like old like Gaelic or old
It looks like a mixture between old Oriental, like Mandarin.
okay. Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense. So yeah, that goes along with some of the Untumban characters that are out there. That they became the Japanese and Chinese peoples here, and also the real Elven people have kind of like a mixture between that and a runish looking language as well. This actually makes sense, given that they're giving a nod to the Tuatha basically in that. So that's basically what their language looks like as well. So obviously somebody was bringing that in when they were creating it, very much like Tolkien did for Lord of the Rings. I found out he was getting a lot of that from channeling and quantum entanglements from these realms that these beings came from as well.
hmm yeah, taking a lot of inspiration from Tolkien. It can be my own little book at the moment.
Well, he had a version of himself, basically, or he was from that place. I believe the people that brought through these original stories in such detail,
Yeah,
they brought it through creatively, but they were bringing it through from these pockets where these beings inhabit. And they've admitted to me many times, yeah, that we've been fueling these stories and fueling this imagination. Not necessarily that humans aren't imaginative and not creative. It's just that when they enter that creative state, they're able to tap into anything that's hidden, and that's how they were bringing that in.
cool. Yeah. The Knight Academy, a school dedicated to training young students to become knights. The honoured students become the rescue knights. Their duty includes saving people who have fallen from the islands, in the sky, patrolling at all hours upon the loft wing. The students who pass the wing ceremony become senior and are given uniforms. Each year, each year the uniforms are different colours. In the 25th anniversary year, when Link becomes a senior uniform, Link becomes a senior. The uniform is green, and the uniform's pretty much what we used to see on Link: the green garments, the
Mhm.
yeah,
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 green and like forest like.
yeah. The forest, yeah, very elemental looking. Right. So we can go to the goddess sword.
Okay.
The origin, yeah, because there's not much history and development to Link. Link's always seemed to be because they wanted to make him connect to the player as much as they can. So they didn't really want to give him too much personality. They wanted to,
Yeah, they didn't really give him too much of a backstory per se, other than what you just said. That part I didn't completely know, because I know Link is more of like a neutral. It's kind of like they're wanting the player to link, no pun intended,
yeah.
to
That's the idea of Miyamoto. He wanted to make the character link between him and the character. So I'll go straight to the goddess.
into it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll go straight to the goddess sword.
Mhm.
The sword, the sword kept inside the statue of the goddess within the chamber of the sword. Within the chamber of the sword, the goddess Helia left the sword and its spirit Fi to guide the hero. The sword and its legend have always been protected by Japia, Japia's family. Legend has it that when evil returns to the land, the sword will begin to glow, and it can be drawn by the chosen hero. This the the spirit and the hero, the spirit guide Fee and the hero, following the path of his destiny in legend, passed on to Superior. I can't pronounce that. Link was guided by the goddess. So, but I can't say it. Somebody's trying to take this up.
Yeah.
Link was guided to the goddess sword enshrined within the statue of the goddess. In order to find Zelda, Link was escorted by Fee, the spirit of the sword. At this point, Zelda was, I think she was taken by this dark entity, and Link has to go and find her. But then he lost her, and then he gets called to go to he follows this entity Fee to the statue.
Mm-hmm.
Link was where was I? Was escorted by Fee, the spirit of the sword, down to the land of legend. Link's quest began as he plunged through the clouds, holding the circle and given to him by Zelda. Oh, I've missed a bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. I've seemed to miss a bit of story here. But yeah, the story happened where him and Zelda are flying, and this giant entity, which I think they call, I think there's another. What was it? What was this giant entity called? It was another form of Ganon. I think it was not. Well, sorry, Demise. It was like some giant. Right. You imprisoned and Demise. Right. That's what kidnapped her at the time.
Okay.
It was like some.
Interesting though about the sword that has an essence to it. I've run into this kind of concept before. Of course, objects can be imbued with particular qualities, particular spells, incantations, and can also be imbued with certain personalities as well. People imbue objects with that all the time, either their computer, their car, their any object that's around, they'll name them. This also at the same time can imbue an object with a personality. People can create a personality with their own thoughts and their own energies, and they can imbue that. There was a study done not that long ago where some paranormal investigators created a character, gave it a backstory, a bio, everything, and they were able to literally get EVPs and ghost box sessions back from that character because they had conjured those energies and gave this being a personality. It was more of kind of like a manufactured poltergeist. But also other beings can speak through things such as weapons. And also in the past, different aliens have used the metal in like the swords and the shields and everything to amplify something they're trying to tell the user of the object within it. And those objects were also ancient technology as well. They depicted this in the show Stargate. SG-1, when the show Excalibur was a piece of technology that had a biometric signature to its user. But also the continuation, that the theme that keeps going on is the hero's quest. There's two versions of this. There's a bad version where you have some god, quote unquote, that is telling the hero to go on this quest to, say, retrieve an object, or get rid of something that was an experiment. That's what the Olympian gods did to Hercules through the 12 labors, to try to get rid of experiments, retrieve objects for them, rescue people, etc. And I call that the Hercules initiative. But the other part to this is when people go on some kind of hero's quest, on the behest of something else, they tend to find a dead end. But there's a hero's quest within too, where it's a journey of self-discovery. By going on some kind of quest themselves, they're going on a journey of self-discovery. That's where that actually comes from. So they're basically kind of loosely displaying both here, and the imbued object with the sword, where some demon lord, like you said, Ganon, initiating this whole, also you must go rescue the maiden, pretty much. That's also how in history they got the feminine to seem lower than the masculine. Going to the masculine always has to go rescue the feminine, and that's complete bullcrap, mind you. But it's they wanted to see if they could put one lesser than the other in history, and then eventually turn it around now to where the female is more in ascendant, so the female energy is more ascendant. So it's more of a shifting, like sun and moon sort of shifting. That's going back to Babylonian magic of sun and moon stars, and that goes back to some of the Orion crap they inserted in there. So that's also where they've put that in. It makes a good story, makes a good game, but at the same time they've added both the good and the bad in there, which goes along with what I call the yield or informational yield, where there has to be some BS put in there along with a lot of truth, or some truth with some BS and some fashion in there, based on both sides of white hat, dark hat influences. That's what I get from that.
Yeah. The shield, the iconic. If anyone knows it, the iconic Helian shield has the crest has the Loftwing crest on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At first, it doesn't. The shield does change over time, but when you get the one we're more common, we're aware of, it's practically indestructible. The shield changes over time. The shield, there looks like there's to be 6 different stages of shields you get throughout the game, and eventually evolves into what the healing shield. I don't know if the black. I can't remember if the blacksmith makes it or you obtain the shield. I think you do make it at the end.
Okay.
You do actually, because I know that's where they introduce more RPG elements to the later in the.
Okay, I'll go Legend of Zelda.
And it's interesting. They say that the hero is always oversleeping. With each journey, he's always waking up, sort of thing.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that with the Legend of Zelda. He's always asleep. He's always dreaming. It's like the quest is more of a dream. It's like it's being downloaded to his to him in some fashion, and I find that very, very interesting. Here's a good image of the shield. I will put on screen share, and come on, computer. There we go. There we go. There we go. This is an image of the shield right here with the bird and the Triforce above right here. This is actually very interesting. This is a lot like a lot of the standards you see in history, from our own country to Nazi Germany to some of the earlier Roman standards. They've used this, and there's also a connection between Atlantis and Nazi Germany as well. Hyperborea. Hitler believed that all German people were descended from Atlantis, and that they had a superiority over others because they were of one of the oldest cultures. So yeah, I can see how this has changed. There's also other images of them right here. And you have the triangle that's at the top here, basically the 3 being above the eagle right here.
Mm-hmm.
You have also some contorted look, and you even have the S and the S right here. One's flipped backwards, but I found out the initials SS, like what the Nazis used, was meant like dual sun or second sun, or symbol of the black sun, or worship of the black sun. So found that interesting. With these triangles, like I said, it's a bastardization of the power 3, or Jinn, or wishes, or gaining of that kind of power. But it's more of a neutral base, and it's more of an amplification of the user. But I find this very interesting that they've put this. I hadn't looked at this in quite some time, but these were all. These are all variations on that same thing, same theme. No matter what somebody has tried to make it look like, it seems to kind of hold the same theme. And what was that?
Yeah.
What do you want to say on that? That's imbuement of what? Imbuement of shielding through. What was that? I'm having a hard time hearing you. Imbuement of shielding through types of the magic of the 3 is what you're saying, but it's obviously you're talking about a bastardization of it, the shielding of got it. Shielding through giving yourself over to something higher is what he's trying to tell me. Can you clarify that a little more? Oh, you just want to tell them directly. Okay, fine. Okay, we'll do it that way. It's easier than translating. Mm.
Yeah.
All right. All I hear is kind of a muffled, as he's trying to talk because there's interference there. So,
Yeah.
okay. I just wanted to point that out with the shield because something just told me to bring the image up. So you have to be careful with some of Nintendo's images because they get real uppity about showing.
Yeah, they're very petty, extremely petty.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. So I did that because I needed to show the image, but okay, Isaac, what did you want to say now? Yes, through the crystal, yes. Okay. Ooh, man, that is really rickety channel there, Isaac. Okay. Oof. Okay. Man, that is choppy today. Wow. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, you're gonna have to step on it. Okay. Let's see. Yes. What was being shown also the virtuous nature of knights, let's just say. Yes, there are good and bad knights, white and black. In this, it shows the duality, also bringing out the higher aspects from within, but also depicted on the shield that your higher aspects are shielding you. But it has also been bastardized to put above you what is within you. The three wishes, as was depicted with the triforces of courage and whatnot, all of those are virtues within people that have been displaced and shattered outside of people through the worship of external sources, also of the usages of and misusages, of different sigils and symbols. The Nazi reference is an accurate one because of the fact that they were attempting to see themselves as powerful over others, also getting others to only see their little me versus their larger me, if this makes any sense. This is why the shield aspect is so very important, even with its variations and alterations. The history that is being depicted within this game series, even though there are many fictions added within and the yields added within. The historical references to elves and humans intermingling, the historical references to Hyperborea and the land of the gods and the Sky City. And there are variants of Sky Cities. There are several of them, actually, in different layers and different parallel dimensions and different bubbles and pockets, as was said. This is what is being depicted within this game series and what has been mentioned currently. I can go into a couple brief questions if you like.
Yeah. So the demon lord Rahim, what were they depicting there? Because I know he's one of Demise' followers. Is he like one of the Anunnaki types?
Yes, the earlier Anunnaki types, one of the original lords, let's just say, of creation, as what is depicted in many of the earlier historical mythological texts about different creation gods and different gods that are precursors to other servants and other kings and other lands and other wizards, let's just say. He is a direct depiction of an earlier Anunnaki lord that would be pre-flood times.
And also the crest of the Triforce, they're in a very specific order. The top left represents the power, the bottom left represents wisdom, and the bottom right represents courage. Why is it in this specific order?
Power being the top, power over others, courage being to the right as far as sacred geometry, as you would say, goes, courage denoting the right hand, and the final being, Richie, what was the last one? It's getting broken up. What was the one on the left?
The one on the left represents wisdom.
Wisdom. Okay, Isaac, reconnect, please. Wisdom being on the left hand of what you would say God, right hand of God, the sword, the courage, and the power being at the top. This is more of a church reference, you see. This is
Hmm.
more of a reverence to on high type of thing. High rule, high uh,
Yeah.
guards, high elf, high Brazil, Hyperborea. You see above, right hand of God, courage, wisdom, power being above. This is how this is represented.
Well, because later, yeah, because it becomes the land of Hyrule.
Indeed, yes, this is exactly how this was depicted. It was taken from biblical references as well.
That's very interesting, Isaac. Wow, thank you. Also, Demise, his look in this one, even he's like the center, he's got the inverted triangle on his sword there, which later in the later games they do explain that, I think, in a Link to the Past, where Link goes to different worlds, that link between worlds where he goes to different parts of the inverters. What's the idea behind the inverted triangle? The inverted triforce, it's upside down.
Yes, power beneath you or power being underneath at your feet. Also, the inversion of different realms belonging to different dimensional frequencies, belonging to different timelines, parallel universes, and different pockets of reality that are anchored within the same, as you would say, space-time continuum. You would say these different realities then can merge into this one. There's a very complex set of physics, whereas it shares the same space-time, has some of the same events, but then schisms off into its own copy, as it were. The inversion of this within some of these pockets would depict down is up and up is down, but this is actually more of a rarity in some of the other timelines where some of the physics are inverted.
Hmm. Also, the it talks about when Link does destroy Demise, whose hatred for those with the blood of the goddesses and the spirit of the hero ever is everlasting. Is that also like with the PTSD timelines as well? For those who have lineages here.
Yes, the demise of everything and everyone, and the hero rising up to stop the demise being within, not creating the improper timeline or the not grounding of the improper timeline, the hero being found within and uncreating the demise of the world. Yes.
Mhm. Right. I'm trying to find where the master, the goddess of sword became the master sword. Because later in the game, I've forgotten that there's a certain tune be played or melody, and it empowers the sword. And later, because the sword becomes the master sword, the goddess sword transforms into the master sword to reactivate the gate. He has to reactivate the gate of time. If I'm correct, because Zelda in this one, there's time travel as well in this game. They go back in time.
Yes.
What's your idea for
You go
that?
forward and ahead in time. And the imbuement also of these objects, such as this sword, as objects can evolve over a period of time with different imbuements. Say you start out with a simple blade, and the imbuements that you put into it as you create the metal for the blade can be said as certain manifestations of the blade. Apply this to a more magical or transmutive construct where, say, a smaller blade is incomplete, whereas a certain intention or imbuement is put upon it to give it its final form. Also, these particular objects can be used to coin a phrase, cut a hole through time, access different time fissures, act as keys to different time locks, such as what Thor's Mjolnir hammer was for on ancient Asgard to stop a time freeze there. A sword can be used for something similar to cut holes through time, open portals, and also stop time, as you would say, dead in its tracks in order to rewrite time that would be more frequency coherent with the object in which is imbued with a particular frequency. I'll explain briefly. Say you have an object that is anchored in a different timeline or a different frequency. That object will always draw itself from yours to that frequency. or if it can be reattuned, go back to where your reality is. This is how different beings time travel, and this is how they travel through the universe. These different sacred objects can be imbued much the same way.
Yeah, because in a later game, Ocarina of Time, when Link removes the sword from the pedestal, I mean, it transfers into 7 years later into the future, into that frequency.
Yes,
They say he's too young for the sword, but it's because of that. Like you said, it's because of that frequency in time. The sword changes over time.
yes.
That's interesting.
Yes, that's exactly how that is depicted. He needed to be older, not only because his genetics were not as far along at a particular frequency, but his energetics had not evolved enough to be able to match that of that sword until 7 years later. Then it could be pulled from its pedestal and used properly.
That's very interesting. Yeah, the Temple of Time, the only entrance to the scared, and this is where the scared realm came into it. The king, the Temple of Time, only entrance to the scared realm. The Temple of Time, or the Temple of Light, shares the same name as the Temple of Liru, desert of Ira of the goddess Helia. It is thought that Liru built the Temple of Time directly over the ruins over the Sil Temple.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
yes.
there are ruins very similarly in both the negative and positive connotations that have been built over by later buildings in all of history. This has taken place. There are also time fractures and bastardizations of what you would call earth chakras that are on these different points. This is what was also being depicted with the Temple of Time and its earlier incarnation. It was the same spot, the same purpose, but just different name.
Interesting. The battle for the scared realm. The legend of a supreme power spread throughout the land, wheating the appetites of those who would possess the Triforce and inviting vicious battles between them. Ruru, the Sage of Light, constructed the Temple of Time, which contained the only existing entrance to the scared realm, where the Triforce was located. With the strong, with the power stronger than both Time and the Master Sword, Ruru sealed the scared realm. The pedestal holding the Master Sword was closed behind the Door of Time, and the keys to open the Door of Time, the spiritual stones of the forest, fire, and water, were protected by their represented people. The Triforce was placed in the Temple of Light, located in the Scared Realm, which was now isolated from Hyrule, protecting the Triforce in the Temple of Light. Ruru became the guardian of the power of the gods.
Yes, this is also a very interesting concept. These particular temples would be ideal for containing an object such as something like the imbuement of the Triforce or the sword, because they would be outside of the normal, as you would say, space-time. They would have to be housed in an environment that they did not automatically travel back to the frequency from whence they came, or the dimension from whence they came. You see, they would be like an anchor or a lock. They would also require an individual to recalibrate and re-lock, let's just say, or re-hinge of this particular building to this particular space-time continuum, very much like in Ethiopia, where you have a guardian of the Ark of the Covenant, or a variation thereof, that needs to constantly be there to watch its attunement within your reality. It is the exact same concept made manifest within the game narrative.
That's very interesting. The also let's talk about Fee, the guide in the sword.
Yes,
Individual.
yes, the guide and the sword. Yes, there are these objects. Some of them are technological, others are more of a magical base, even though that is one and the same. The concept is the same, where there can be a consciousness imbued within these objects to ensure the object's usage. Some of these were computer-based, where it was an AI voice that could be heard within. Some were the actual being or the creator of the objects that imbued a copy of their personality within the object. Again, the Ark of the Covenant is another example of this, where the one you call the on high or Enlil imbued part of his personality within that construct, along with the one you call Helios or the one of the sun, also did the same, but it was mostly Enlil's amplification during the times of the walls of Jericho when they fell in your history. With the sword itself in the story, it was depicted very much the same, where it was imbued with this being, or a being was uploaded to it. Now, can someone put their copy of an essence, as he is described, on an object and they become their own life form? Yes, indeed. You can name it, you can call it within a narrative, you can ground that narrative and create any being or personality that you wish with your own mental and heart space and intentions. This is also what was being depicted.
The establishment of the Hyrule Kingdom. The descendants of the goddess Helia, who reincarnated as the Princess Zelda, established the Kingdom of Hyrule and became Hyrule's royal family. In order to protect the Triforce, Hyrule Castle was built in the center of Hyrule, where the Temple of Time was located. The royal family watched over the Triforce, keeping the existence unknown to others. Many members of the royal family were born with special powers because of their lineage that connected them to the goddesses. The princess, princesses were repeatedly given the name Zelda, a name that came from the historical legends. So, in terms of like, this is why some people like me and Chris inherit certain psychic abilities because of lineage and so on and so on. Mm-hmm. This is where might come from, that concept.
This is a depiction also of different Cabal families initiating certain goddess worship, and different also different oracles throughout your history initiating that psychic lineage. Also getting more mishmashed as time went on, but this is a depiction of some of your Cabal families, as well as some of your more psychic families that started lineages on the earth as well.
There's also the crest of the royal family. The goddesses of Helia had the bird-like crest, and the people of Skyloft rode giant birds. The crest of the royal family incorporates the historical imprint of the bird, as well as the three triangles. Because in the beginning, it was just the crest, then it became the triangle of power in the center on the top.
Yes, this is a direct depiction of the starting of some of the Cabal lines, such as like in Egypt being the pyramid. This is where the Rothschild family originated from originally. This is where some of the Cabal also originated in other families and all family offshoots. This is why you have the all-seeing eye, which is also the triangle of power with the eye in the center. This is where we go back to the power of being on top, them being on top, them being the ruler class of humanity. This is what was being depicted in that portion of the narrative.
Mm-hmm. Right. What's going to talk about? Destruction of Demise. After return to his own era, Link has found the legendary Triforce and becomes worthy of an ultimate power upon the completion of the number of trials, at which he receives the crest of the Triforce. He was granted the wish. The statue of the goddess returned to its former place and in the sealed grounds, where it was destroyed. The Demon King Demise. After thousands of years, sleep Zelda awoke. Yeah, sorry about that. Something's interfering.
Yes, there's interference with this today. What was being depicted was the emergence of the, as you would say, bad timeline, whereas the Dark Orions invaded their way into creation. The sleeping Zelda sleeping throughout history. This depicts two things. Sleepers from Agartha, sleepers within history that incarnate here to help change things within your world, or people that incarnate, such as light workers, come into your society, or the ones you call light workers come in to change the tone and the harmonic of the earth, and to draw away the timeline of demise. The reason she is female is because this is more the Cabal aspects in here, where they have more of a goddess worship and are awaiting the time of the return of the sacred feminine. This is why you hear a lot today about the return of the sacred feminine, because it went from masculine to feminine. But when people quit separating these two things and see them as all inclusive, you will not see any more of the separatist mythologies in games, nor will you see it within your society. But does the female energy have to be in ascendance for a period of time to balance this particular pendulum swing out? Yes, this is what is being depicted in that narrative.
The resurrection of the Demon King demise. The enraged Gurren kidnapped Zelda and took her through the Gate of Time. After arriving in the past, Gurren performed the ritual to resurrect the Demon King demise. Link followed, battling and defeating Gurren, but was too late. Demise was awoke. After intense battle, Link defeated the demon. Upon his termination, the Demon King's hatred was absorbed and sealed into the Master Sword. The demons on the surface no longer terrorized its inhabitants. So, like you said, binding into certain objects, spirits and certain.
Yes. Yes, binding the essence into the sword, and also the awakening of demise going through time. That would be the people manifesting the bad timeline, or the timeline of demise, as was depicted in the 2023 timeline, of which he saw from the Mozen. This is a variation of that magic being spoken about in the past, so that people would expect to go ahead into the future and see the timeline of demise conquered by the hero's sword, or the imbuement of that sword, meaning the uprising of people against the tyranny of demise later on in the future. This has not yet completely occurred in your timeline, nor will it occur at all within your reality, because your energies have changed so much. But this was something they were attempting to manifest through that narrative as well.
Oh, God, that's spooky. Zelda, right. A return to the surface. Zelda and the others returned to the present time. The atmosphere was peaceful, and this is after they defeated Demise was defeated. And there was a feeling of a new beginning. Zelda resolved to live on the surface and protect the Triforce. However, the destruction of Demise was not the end of the battle. It was the beginning of a curse, a never-ending cycle of reincarnation of the Demon King, whose hatred for those with the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero is everlasting. Later on, he's the incarnation. That's Ganon's the incarnation of Demise, sort of thing. We find out why it's always been.
Yes, becoming the incarnation of demise, going from Ganondorf to Ganon, you see, tapping into that particular energy, or a mirroring of that particular timeline, going into more of the concurrent time. People mirror these things either from the future or the past all of the time. You see, even through bloodlines, they mirror it through their genetic viral DNA. They mirror it through genetic and lineage curses, as they are called. And this can actually transpose through the etherics into genetic DNA. Say someone like Ganondorf tapped into the essence of demise. This could then transform him into a demon-like figure, because of the template of energy that demise was imbued onto himself, therefore transforming him into the creature you know of as Ganon. This can happen to pretty much anyone tapping into particular energies, particular time frames, very much like the destruction of Atlantis, the destruction of Maldek/Asgard, and the invasion of the different Orion beings through the worship of different angelic types of beings, meaning drawing them into this time frame, into that particular type of construct. It is a form of transmutation or transconfiguration that does not always belong within this time frame or this world. But if one is strong enough in those particular arts and in those particular modalities, they can bring across the threshold, or conjure across the threshold, pretty much any variance. This is also why Ganon was always wanting to capture Zelda. That is the capturing of what is the sacred feminine, or capturing the heart and the power of the people in favor of demise. This is where some of that symbolism and some of the literal times of the old Orion Wars come in. Anyone that brings through, just like what was done on ancient Atlantis, anyone that brings through either worship or through scientific innovations, the focus of these beings of Orion, they're bringing through that same, as you would say, blob of overage or blob of demise energy. It is the exact same concept made manifest in the narrative.
Very interesting. The next series in the timeline, the next one they're depicting it's called the Minish Cap. It's called Hikori and the Light Force. The Hero of Men, the first major event happened since the Kingdom of Hyrule was established. The world was engulfed by evil beings and shrouded in darkness. It was then that a tiny Hikori descended from the sky, bringing a golden light and a sword. Using the sword, the Hero of Men sealed the evil beings away in the bound chest and brought peace to the world once again. The golden light force, the golden light force, a source of infinite power from the heavens that holds enormous power of force which originally dwelled in all things.
Yes, this is quite interesting. The defeating of the demons as well as the unleashing of the demons, very much like the unleashing of the evil of the world from Pandora's box, or the chaining of Prometheus, the giver of fire and the fire of knowledge. Zeus helped unleash the demons of the world to what he figured compromise with these dark Orions, therefore giving rise to a hero, so to speak, that had to defeat these demons. Therefore, pendulum swinging from one side to the other to create a perspective that lasted permanently for a while as a duality, as the good and evil, or the hero against the villain, which is happening both politically and narratively in your society currently. One side against the other, one side's right, one side's wrong. And yes, there is a right and wrong in all of this. Of course there is. But being able to separate light and shadow, like one is evil and one is not. This is a line that is actually more blurred into the areas of neutrality. This is why this was ripped apart, as you would say, asunder to light and shadow. This was also what was being depicted in that story.
Right. The royal family and the Picori. After seeing where the evil beings, the royal family of Hyrule became careful overseas of the sword, which became known as the Picori blade. Furthermore, the royal family kept the existence of the land of Picori, the Minish realm, hidden in gratitude to the Picori. The people held a Picori festival once a year. Legend said that every 100 years a secret door would open up and the Picori would pass through and enter the world of humans. The custom of the Picori festival had continued for many years. Among them was a sword fighting tournament. The award ceremony was held in front of the Picori blade. Was it was it history?
Yes, some history involved with the imbuing of these objects and the guarding of these different sacred objects. You see, some beings were either programmed or imbued with the, as you would say, the telepathic guardianship of these different objects and these different blades and these different relics, let's just say, very much like someone needed to be around the Ark of the Covenant, or like the Sword of Time, as you showed it to be. This particular blade is no different. It had a certain imbuance of different magical capabilities. There is a real historical event being depicted here, whereas certain elemental families came together to guard against the Fomorian inferences to gain objects of real power that they lost earlier on within the Orion Wars, you see. From Orion or Fomorian, Tuatha De Danann, Elf, Elemental. They were keeping the Orion forces away from their different objects of power, and imbuing them themselves with elemental magics, which elemental magics are superior to that of Orion magics themselves. They can only mimic different elemental magic. They can even bastardize different and corrupt different areas of nature, but they cannot be defeated, or they can be defeated by actual elemental magic. The different elements, no matter what culture utilizes these different elements. This is also why you see a similarity to a Cabal family within that particular elemental family, because it is more of a depiction of the Tuatha versus the Fomorian sides. These different objects of power then were brought into the inner earth, or removed from the inner earth when they were needed. You see later on in history, the Orions wanted to reclaim different objects of power. Therefore, their former slaves, which were the Tuatha De Danann, decided to use these objects of power against them. You see, they were not like the One Ring in Lord of the Rings, where it could only serve evil. They were more neutrally based and could serve anyone that touched them, very much like your Triforces are depicted.
The secret of the Bakori. The curse placed on Princess the curse placed on Princess Zelda could only be broken by the scared power of the Bakori blade. The tribe of the Bakori, also called the Minish, were the only ones able to fix the Bakori blade, and could only be seen by children. Therefore, Smith, the great blacksmith, proposed that the king of Hyrule enlist the help of a young Link. The king told Link where the Minish dwelled. Then, with the broken Bakori blade and the smith's sword in the hands of Link, Link sets off to search for their land. Basically, yeah. And on the way, he meets a character called Enzo. On his way to Bakori's home in the Minish Woods, a young Link met Elza, a young man suffering from a curse. Link came to learn that Elza had been a Minish sage, and that Vati, the main antagonist of that game, Minish Cap, had been his apprentice. When Vati put on the magic cap made by Elzo, he gained the evil powers and cursed Elzo by changing him into a shape of a cat.
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
That's it.
Okay, this is very interesting. Also, the fact that this blade could only be held by a particular family or a particular line, and also only be seen by children, meaning it would have to be in a particular wavelength that a child's either undeveloped brain or a particular lineage at that stage of development then was imbued onto that object to be seen. When beings are also cursed into different forms, where you said that individual was cursed in the form of a cat, this
Yeah, cat.
What was that, Richie?
A cat. He was a cat. He's a hat. He's turned to a hat.
Hat. Okay. Yes. Okay. Hang on. The channeling's getting garbled here. Hang on. Okay. Yes, other beings can also be transformed very much like that in a curse form, either imbued into a mask, very much like it was depicted in later games, also within a helmet, hat, or other wearable object. A being can not only have their essence imbued on it, but themselves also within a curse format, therefore turning them into a multitude of different objects, or imbuing them into a multitude of different objects for punishment purposes. This is where you get haunted dolls from, and haunted masks and haunted objects such as this. Beings themselves can be transformed into this or imbued into this in a punishment format. The doll format is one of the more common punishment types in your modern day you see for this type of curse. So when you run across a haunted doll or a haunted mask, release the essence that's within it and have True Benevolent Source Creator transmute it into something that is more applicable, or to its original form that is uncorrupted. This is a form of punishment that still exists to your modern day.
Hyrule, Hyrule Kingdom in chaos. Hyrule engulfed. This is going on to Ocarina of Time now. Hyrule engulfed by the fires of war and the kingdom united. The War of Hyrule raged. Was it unabated for countless years. In the midst of confusion, a lone woman fled into the fires of war. Fled into the fires of war. But, well, this is written. Well, something's stop. Hang on, something's trying to confuse me here. A lone woman fled into the fires of war, babe in her arms, and escaped. It escaped into the forbidden forest. She entrusted her child to the spirit of the Kokiri forest, the Deku tree. The Deku tree, sensing that the infant's destiny was entwined with Hyrule's future, took the child in. Once the child's mother had passed away, the babe was raised by the Kokiri. The boy was later become Link, the hero. But the fighting was eventually quelled by the King of Hyrule, and the entire land was unfulfilled under his. Oh, for God's sake! Something's trying to think. Sorry, folks. The entire land was unified under the kingdom. Ununified. Sorry, I can't. Something's trying to stop me
Yes,
reading.
this is quite what is being depicted, what they do not wish people to hear about this particular aspect is the fact that there are many children given up by different Cabal lineages as part of their, as you would say, contract with the Dark Orions. These particular children then are raised by different families, different parents, and different groups of people, therefore becoming the opposite and polar antithesis of what they actually are, therefore becoming the hero. One could say this was perpetuating the hero's quest or perpetuating the pendulum swing from hero to villain. But one could also say that this particular individual then was raised to be a more balanced individual and therefore ground all of these particular balanced harmonics and whatever harmonics they came in with to help correct the world and rebalance the world. This is also what is being depicted. This is why this is being so heavily interfered with. This was happening as of this morning on this end as well, because of these different inferences and references within this game series. There are many others embedded in this game series. This is why this is being so heavily interfered with, because it is showing the essence of some of the Cabal contract that is also left to play out, very much like what I said, the timeline of demise not being applicable any longer. This is something that is being depicted also within the bearing of that child into a different group. Sometimes there are alien groups, such as different Eben groups and other alien groups, that will leave their children with groups of people to help raise them, so they have a stake here upon the earth, so they have a stake in what happens here, because there are so many non-interference directives out there in the galaxy, especially with your Galactic Federation, for instance. Therefore, a child being raised by humans would be able to make active decisions down here upon the earth. This is the light version of this set of events being shown. You see the yin and the yang in both of these instances, but both are currently occurring even as we are speaking.
The Forbidden Forest. This is the name given to the Kokiri Forest and the Lost Woods by the humans living outside its leafy borders. Adults are lost among the trees, turn into Stelfos, while the children turn into Skull Kids. Both are doomed to wander if they wander in the woods too long. They become lost if it turns like these skeleton-like beings. These adults, and kids turn like these little Skull Kid imps.
Yes, there are depictions of this that are correct, such as your different haunted woods, such as your Japanese forest that is seen as the suicide forest. There are skeletal beings that do wander this forest because they are the lost essences of those that have been, as you would say, harvested and partially discarded to haunt these different woods. This has happened in a multitude of different places where bones and skeletons have been desecrated, found, and or fed upon by different ghoul type forces, such as your Draco and other ghoul instances within graveyards. This is Some of them are projected or holographically projected, but what is being depicted in the Lost Woods with these skeletal type figures is what I aforementioned, where they were partially harvested, poured out essences, that their hollow essence then wanders the landscape. This is something that is not generally spoken about because this is a type of concept that certain thoughts could empower these different beings or open up portals and causeways to different homes. But in instances of desecrated remains, forgotten deaths, or unmourned deaths, sometimes these things can occur where it is unacknowledged and there was a partial harvesting taking place or a husk that wanders the earth. This, like I said, happens within the haunted forest in Japan and a variant of other places on your world. This is why it is aptly named the Lost Woods.
It's all about the Skull Kid. There's imps.
Yes, this is very interesting with him, a variant that would want to destroy the world, such as in your Majora's Mask, for instance. This particular time variant where you repeat the same 3 days over and over again, attempting to stop this Skull Kid. There are different individuals, or as you would say, dark anomalies that are placed on the planet that at any moment could and would bring the moon down upon the planet or destroy things within a temporal paradoxical type nature. They are a feral abnormality that is extremely rare on the planet. They come in sometimes without warning. This is something that is depicted within this game series, where he is just wanting to destroy the planet, even though he is he is on the planet itself. You see, these are also parts of the essences of the old temporal wars, Orion and Lyran wars, where there would be variants of different beings placed within those societies that would be of that roguish type of nature, that were more of like a berserker within the society where they would just destroy and destroy. But this is what is being depicted.
A brief tranquility. The scars of war faded from Hyrule, and it seemed that at last the world was at peace. Gandalf, he's in this game he takes the human form, which we're accustomed to. Leader of the Gerudo people of the desert, once again swore fealty to the king of Hyrule. However, Gandalf's true aim was the Triforce said to lie somewhere within the kingdom, seeking the spiritual stones necessary to open the gateway to the scared realm. He carried out his plots in secret in every corner of the land. So the Gerudo, so Ganondorf, his appearance in this one, he's human, but he's not like the rest of the Hylian. He doesn't have the pointed ears. He has more like the round ears. He has the green face. He has the reddish hair, as we said. Means fair hair gown in Gaelic. And yeah, so what's going on there? Because I know on previous a while back, I remember being told me that Ganon was he was a metaphysical embodiment of all different sorts of bad Orions. Like you got the Anunnaki, the Draco, the Greys.
Yes, this is the most accurate. He is an imbuement or an embodiment of all of these different factions and this particular lust for power concept. He is more allegorical in that particular way, also in a literal form and depiction of all of these different Orion type of factions. Whereas then he changes to the embodiment of demise, as you said later on, is Ganon, but as in Ganondorf, he is a man that has a lust for power that and then leads him to that particular goal or the drawing out of that particular dark energy. But he is an embodiment of all of these different references.
Link's travel through Link's travels in the Kokiri truck. Each member of the Kokiri people, Lost Woods. Each member of the Kokiri tribe possesses his or her own fairy partner. Though they never grow up, it is said that they will die upon leaving the forest because Link was Hylian by birth. He did not have his own fairy. However, on the fateful day Link was set out on his journey, the Deku sent Navi, the fairy, to his side. The green clothes Link wears are characteristics of the Kokiri tribe. So the Kokiri, I take it, are depicting the Fae, but what's with the childlike appearance and why can't they leave that realm? Or why do they die when they leave that realm?
Well, within a particular realm, some of these different races are locked within their different realms, such as some of these fairy and fae, different types of beings, let's just say. And if they were to enter your realm, they would enter a different set of physics from the realm that they are used to, such as non-aging within their realm or childlike within their realm. If they entered here, they would begin to age, and also sometimes some of the fairy type beings that have entered from these different realms or these different pockets did indeed die because the physics and the environment is so vastly different than here, even though they are of a great similarity. Now the fairy partners that are with or the guides that are with these different beings. This actually does take place within some of these child fairy or fae type of beings where they have a small fairy that whispers in their ear from time to time, one that can help them travel and traverse different dimensions and leave that particular dimension if necessary. This is what is being depicted there. These little miniature, as you would say, type of fairies are called illusi. They have been known to sleep within plants or within certain cave systems or within trees. Some of them are being depicted as glowing lights on the trees. One could say that's more like a Christmas tree coming from a different religious construct, but in a more of a loosely based facade. But in as far as the realm goes, why they cannot leave, it is because their particular makeup or frequency or density is different than where they would leave to.
Yeah, because in later games they take the appearance of more tree-like sprites. Because in this game they're more childlike, as you said.
Yes.
The three spiritual stones. There are three spiritual stones, each representing one of the three elements: forest, fire, and water. The first is the Kokiri Emerald, guarded by the Kiriki tree. The second is the Goron's Ruby, guarded by the Goron tribe. The third is the Zora's Sapphire, guarded by the Zoras. In order to obtain the stones, Gandalf placed the curse upon the Deku tree and Jabu Jabu, the guardian of the deities, the guardian of the deities of the forest and water. Threat and threatened the Goron tribe. The shape of each spiritual stone resembles its tribe symbol. So the Kokiri forest, the Kokiri emerald is green and it has like a more spiral shape to it. The Goron's ruby is more like a crest shape, and the sapphire of Zora is three gems. They look similar to that of the Triforce in the tri shape. What's the what was that? What they depicting there?
This would be depicting more like elemental magic and also the good annotation of the power of three. When Ganondorf attempts to gain all of these, they are corrupting. He is corrupting not only the power of three, but attempting to corrupt aspects of nature, like some of these dark beings have attempted to do with some of their energy collection units upon the earth, and other demonic entities that have attempted to infect land upon the earth. This is what this is representing. Also, the spiral within your Celtic culture was more of a portal to different areas. These others with different forest depictions and different nature depictions, this all is inclusive with and depicted within the power of three on the good side. which that is the beginning of what you know of as sacred geometry. But as I've said, certain geometric forms are more neutral, whether they are used by good or bad. Is more or less irrelevant. It is the fact that they are being used. You should always use them for good, but they can also be used by bad. Now, is nature in its truest essence not corruptible? Yes, but there are some aspects of nature that can become infected and being used for an overage of darkness, such as Ganon Dwarf.
The Ocarina of Time, protected by the royal family. The Ocarina of Time is one of the keys. Sorry, is one of the keys to the sacred realm. It can play songs capable of manipulating both time and space. It's a blue and white radiance that bring radiance. It brings to mind the time shift stones found in the areas of an, antiquity. Antiquity. I can't pronounce that word. Sorry. Antiquity. As I pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it is interesting that certain musical notes can open the portals of time, let's just say, or the aspects of time, even though time is as people would say, is a non-existent paradigm. However, certain notes have been able to open portals, such as your gate of Amara Muru in Peru and the Amara people. This particular gateway can transport the person using a series of musical notes to open. This is a series of tones. Also, a computer can create a certain set of dial tones or a set of tones to open certain pathways and certain connections to your internet or certain connections to different portals as well. This is why within your Stargate program, when they were dialing the gate also had different tones and had a central button in which to apply those particular combinations of tones. It is the exact same concept shown in more of a magical construct, but it can either be applied technologically or magically.
The hero awakens, wielding the Master Sword. This is when Link, in Ocarina of Time, gains the Master Sword. He's instructed what to do. Wielding the Master Sword in his left hand and carrying out the healing shield as the Princess Zelda played her harp, she imparted wisdom to Link. She instructed the hero to break the curses on each of the 5 temples and awaken the sages within. Link, the hero of time, spurred his horse across the land and travelled through time, breaking each temple's curses. Receiving medallions from the awakened sages, he gradually aided their power in his own. The sage's medallion. The medallions imbued with a power of awakened sage. With each medallion he obtains, the hero attains even greater power. Even greater power. These are these 6 medallions you obtain the game from the sages. And now originally the creator of Miyamoto you were able to use these as like items. These sages, these medallions, but they later they just used them as more of an aesthetic thing.
Yes, this is also quite interesting, where the particular hero then can rewrite the corruptions within time, within that particular construct, both in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Therefore, resetting things to what they belong without that demise type of energy. Or as you were mentioning earlier, the Skull Kid that was depicted within that particular construct, whereas the individual is able to change even the aspects of time. This is extremely true, especially if you are grounding particular harmonics within the benevolent Akashic records, or grounding, of course, them on the earth, therefore changing the tides of that particular narrative. I'll explain a little further. If you are observing a particular experiment or target, therefore observing the particular experiment or target automatically changes because of the energetic intent and variable that is placed within that construct. Therefore, Link going around and reestablishing order and reestablishing balance within that game series and restoring time. This makes sense within that construct.
Okay, that's interesting. Um, the Gorons, the people of fire, and the Zoras, the people of water. The Goron tribe, who guard the spiritual stone of fire, is a group of rock eaters that make their own home on Death Mountain. In this area, their leader is Darunia. The Zora tribe, who protect the spiritual stones of water, live in the Zora's domain, located in the headwaters of the Zora River. The tribe was unified by the ruler known as the King Zora. The king, the king Link meets in this era is unknown. Zora, Zora, his daughter is named Princess Ruto. So I take it the Goron tribe is depicting the Fiagi people.
Yes.
And depicting Zora is depicting the Mer people.
Yes, you're correct on both accounts. The Fjorgi people, even though they are stone-like, there are other stone beings that live within the earth that you would also call stone golems and such, that were originating as different conjurings in ancient times that became their own life forms. There are also another group of stone beings from the Boots that are related to the Fjorgi that are extremely rock-looking, very much like your Thing from Fantastic Four. These are a few beings that are being depicted, but it's mostly the Fjorgi that are being depicted. With the fish beings, yes, these are a type of mer that exist in your Earth oceans currently, most of which are on your Pacific Rim currently of the United States. And also within your British Isles, there are other mer people in Myrmidon up that way, but the ones specifically that are being shown are some of them are in your deep Atlantic, and other ones are mostly in your Pacific Rim.
There's other races too, the Gerudo as well. That's one of the sages called Nabiru, the spirit sage, a cleverest thief of the Gerudo tribe because she opposes Gandalf. She is brainwashed and surrogate. She's brainwashed by his surrogate mothers, the pair called Twinova.
Yes, this is actually quite interesting. This would be depicting some of the RH negative line within your Basque people. The reason that Sage is called Nibiru is because the inhabitants of Nibiru are attempting to use the RH negative factor to re-enrich their blood from the Basque people who descend from ancient Atlantis, along with some of your Viking people. This is what is being depicted, and someone was attempting to put that type of disclosure by using that name to mark the Gerudo people, which is also a marking of a particular line, so that or a particular blood type, so that the Orions would know to come back and keep, as you would say, picking on that particular set of people. This is it was loosely depicted with that name, some loosely, some direct.
The transformation into the demon king Ganon. Link was victorious in his one-to-one battle with Ganondorf. However, the thief used the last of his power to transform into the demonic evil beast, the demon king Ganon. Cornered Link and Princess Zelda. So his final form, the pig form, which I think a lot of the classic Zelda fans would know more aware of. Because I think they were originally going to use that form at one point, but then I suppose because of graphical limitations, they couldn't use it, so they had to stick with the human form. So this pig-like form, it does remind me a lot of an Alpha Draconian mixed with something else. It reminds me of one of those big giant, say the Berserker type Sailor ones.
Yes, a corruption of some of the elemental magic, like a satyr demon. So there are some fish depictions in some other images that were not necessarily canon with the storyline. However, this draconian and pig like inference that was made there within the story. There are pig-like guards of different types of information and relics, as well as different facilities, very much like in your Star Wars series. This is why they had pig guards. But at the same time, yes, there is a depiction of an Alpha Draconis within that, or you would say archdemon type, very much like your demise is within the storyline. This particular melding also goes back into other historical areas, such as your ancient Japan, where there is a heavier set type of demon that devours children. This was also depicted within this, not necessarily in that grotesqueness, but there was a loose depiction there. But this goes back to, yes, your Orion and your Alpha Draconis. Yes.
The Gerudo tribe, people of the desert, a group of thieves that inhabit the Gerudo Desert. That the tribe bears only female children who occasionally wander into the Hyrule in search of four males contendants. Their custom, their customs agree that the male child, or that a male child born to born to the tribe once every 100 years will be crowned their king. Gandalf was raised by the Kotake and Kume, the Twinmorph, a pair of twin witches called Twinova. Twinova worshipped Gandalf as a demon king. It could be said that the sisters, who have lived for over 400 years, rule the tribe from behind the scenes. The Gerudo even have their own distinctive language. It looks like a mixture between Arabic and something. It looks it's like a mixture between Middle Eastern and something else. The language. I don't know if Chris will be able to get this up when he.
Yes, this is quite interesting because they are depicting aspects of your Middle Eastern culture and your continent of Atlantis. Atlantis had tribal ladies, let's just say, that conjured and incurred presences across the dimensions. This is how some of the Orions came to be within your continent of Atlantis. They're also depicting some historical things that he here is not aware of within your Middle Eastern culture, whereas in your Middle East, women are denigrated, even currently to this day. But at one point in your history, around the times of your ancient Ubar and further back into your Atlantean histories, there were a tribe of women seers that also inhabited your Middle Eastern countries and in your Sumerian areas that were sages that could indeed speak to different aspects in different realms. This is also one of the ways that some of your Orions came across the threshold. Were men rare in those tribes? One could say this because it was women that ruled the tribes. There are also other galactics out there that have more of a feminine presence because this is what they prefer. They prefer a all-female group, and they will bring in genetics from other male groups. So this is also depicting a galactic group as well, which was also existent in that part of the world. Now there is a galactic group that he here has not touched on too much from Cassiopeia, the same as the Deir Mozen and the others. That also was an Arabic type of ET group, you could say, that then split up into some of the other races you know of as Philistine, Arabic, and Jewish. This came around the same time in history, but you were dealing with a couple of different galactic groups, one of Atlantean origin and one of Cassiopeian origin.
That's very interesting. Um, there's two timelines here. It's where the timelines split. The hero is victorious following the fierce battle. Princess Zelda entrapped Ganon with waves of light, and Link delivered the finishing blow. The six sages completed the task by imprisoning the beast in the sealed void that had been rent in the scared realm. Ganondorf. Ganon, having lost the battle, is sealed away along with the Triforce power. Through this, he regained his human form. Ganondorf's intense animosity towards Prince Zelda and Link and the sages will bring about the disaster and eras to come. And there's the other timeline where he gets all the where he obtains the Triforces. But I want to talk more about this one with the heroes victorious. So, because that'll lead on to hold on. That timeline leads on to, I believe, Majora's Mask. If I'm correct. Yeah, this is where. Yeah, we can actually. Yeah, let's talk about the one where where Link fails in this timeline because you still there?
Yes.
Correct. We'll talk about the one where Link fails because I think that's the one that leads into the Link to the Past and the other the series that they did the earlier series they did. Right. So the hero of time's defeated. Ganondorf the thief obtained the Triforce of Power and managed to get his hands on the Princess Zelda. The hero time Link challenged him in battle that would determine Hyrule's very existence and lost. The Seven Sages seal away the Demon King. At last, Ganondorf found himself in a position of Triforce and wisdom that dwelt within the Princess Zelda, and the Triforce of courage that dwelt within Link. His true power achieved is transformed into the Demon King. The Seven Sages of Hyrule led the Princess Zelda, sealed Ganon into the Triforce realm and resort. And this led to the imprisoning war. For a brief time, it seemed that as though peace had returned to the kingdom. However, there were many who knew of the existence of the Triforce and the entrance to the sealed realm. Because of the events set in motion by Gandalf, their lust aroused. They rushed to gain access to the Holy Land in their quest to obtain the power of the gods. Little did they realize that the scared realm had been transformed into a dark world by Ganondorf's evil heart. It's interesting. None returned from their adventures. Instead, only the power of darkness flowed forth.
This is an interesting different temporal timelines referring on your own, very much in more of a dark Mandela effect, where also different parallel universes have different outcomes. This is also what happened within your Mount Shasta, for instance, where there was a pocket or a pocket reality where different Syrian type of tribes were able to take control of underneath Mount Shasta in Telos City through a form of temporal Mandela effect or a time schism. This is interesting where there is this other timeline where one fails and another is triumphant, you see. In different parallel universes, the choice of the multiverse exists, you see, where different parallel realities will have a choice that was not necessarily made within another parallel reality. Yes, other internal timelines fall away, and also the Mandela effect melts away some that are not needed anymore. But the multiverse was created to keep choice in reality, you see. So therefore, there was another reality where the Dark Orions came from, where certain, as you would say, lusting for technology and losing soul light, or what happened there. This is why a true benevolent source creator marked that universe for destruction, because it was far too dim. You see, it was far too destructive to other realities. This is also why the survival instinct of the Dark Orions kicked in, and they tore across time and space and different universes. For every choice you make, there is an opposite or polar opposite within the multiverse. There's aspects of this changing, mind you, because the different realities are melding into a more of an omnipresent timeline that is within your reality, melding into a singularity, as you would say, but also different aspects of an organization known as Time Corps in the distant future is attempting to steer certain timelines more towards what they knew, so they do not have to recalculate different variables. This is happening on all of these fronts, but in the truest sense of what you are depicting, there are other universes that certain opposites may have happened. An enemy may have won, or in yours they may have lost, etc.
That's very interesting. The Hylian bloodline weakens. Until the era of the Hero of Time, the kingdom of Hyrule was most likely inhabited by the Hylian people, whose existence was linked to the goddesses. Hylians possess the special powers. It is said that their long ears allow them to hear the voices of the gods. However, the kingdom fell into ruin during the imprisonment of the war, and the bloodline of Hylians weakened with the sages until their existence was but a naught but a thing of the past. The sages, the power also waned, and Hyrule, once called the kingdom of gods, became nothing more than an ancient legend. That's continuing the story I just said of the imprisonment of the war.
Yes, this is also what the Dark Orions want people to think of their own ancient history, that it was nothing but legend, also sometimes allegory. This is a dark timeline that is being depicted in this respect because they wish for people to believe certain things are only myth and not aspects of their own history, even though their own history is before their eyes, right in front of them, even within all the temporal changes you see. This is why aspects of the Tartarian Empire and all these are coming back into fruition in these new energies, you see. What part of the Orion agenda was to separate people from their history and their past and their point of origins. But now people are discovering these origins in these new energies and grounding them in the current present moment. So it is backfiring on them because people were knowing that they had forgotten something from long ago, even from all of their past lives. So this falling into legend, this is accurately depicted as how your Earth history, true Earth history, has been depicted.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So continuing on, lights the nights. Do you want to leave it here, or do you want to keep going on? Chris,
Hmm?
do you want to continue on, or
Let me see. There is a something that popped up on the computer. Sorry. Okay, go on.
do you want to continue on, or do you want to?
Actually, let's just call it. This time we can do another
Yeah,
episode at some point because he's having a hard time staying connected. So it's like,
yeah.
wow, that was an enormous amount of information. So yeah.
It's
Uh,
interesting though.
Yeah. See, there was the computer's starting to screw up a little bit, so we might
Yeah,
want to call that. Yeah, I liked how the different parallels in history. I didn't know all of that about the Legend of Zelda history. I hadn't looked into all of that. I just knew based on some of the games I had played.
yeah. But there's tons of info on that. Yeah,
Yeah, and we can always, this. I know this is more of a mishmash episode. We can refine it down with other
yeah.
game.
Because I didn't think it'd be. I thought, well, how are we going to do this? Because the timelines all over the place, sort of thing. But we
Mhm.
managed to get through a lot of it. So we got through the basic essential fundamentals of Zelda, so people know what it is.
Yeah.
So people are still listening. Um, yeah, but that was very. So maybe because it was intuition. It was intuition that told us to look into that, and it's rich with history.
Yeah, and it's definitely rich with history. I just knew that it had to be spoken about because I felt there was truth in there somewhere. And I didn't know all of that information. Like when Ryan and I went through the Elder Scrolls, I didn't know. I only knew maybe a third of the information that was from
Yeah.
that. So this is actually quite interesting. So I'm hoping everybody watching this enjoyed this particular
Yes.
episode.
Sorry for the stuttering, people. Something was trying to hinder me massively, and I've been getting large amounts of cotton mouth.
Yeah, same here. I was getting Cottonmouth, and Isaac kept getting like pushed aside repeatedly. By some of these different forces. It was coming from a distance. It was hitting both of us simultaneously through the computer. So this has been a great episode of a disclosure in the media, episode of lifting disclosure in the media about the Legend of Zelda game series. We're going to do a series of these based on specific ones and specific games, like you saw the Elder Scrolls and the Fallout series. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Bye bye now.
Take care. Bye bye.
Okay, an addendum to the Zelda show we just did today, where it was being talked about imbued items such as the Triforce sword, time, and compared to the Ark of the Covenant, having to be housed in a building like a temple built around it with a guard, very much like the priest that is with the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia, or a version of it. I'm believing any other versions that are out there are the same object, just in different time schisms, where it would have to be grounded within that time, because it's a frequency. All right, hang on. It's a frequency very much like how beings travel through space and time, where it has a frequency that matches one that's different from the one that it's in, and then you release it and it automatically goes to its matching frequency, whatever you calibrate the device for it to go to. Same thing with portal, same thing with teleportation. And like in the game series, the Sword of Time was encased in a temple called the Temple of Time, and it was out of temporal time sync, but still was able to be in our reality, and could only be used by a handful or somebody calibrated with that energy. The same thing goes with the Ark of the Covenant and its protection measures. I believe it would have to be akin to a temporal drive or some nuclear powered computer or something that could have piloted a vessel or a weapon of some sort, where a consciousness could be uploaded, because it was said in the series that Enlil himself had uploaded himself to it to use it like a steering wheel. So during the times of the walls of Jericho, when the walls of Jericho were knocked down by sound, but it was really the Ark of the Covenant that did it, and like an amplification of that. But also in the game series, all these objects were, in some cases, were more neutral, not necessarily pure of heart type of thing like the mythologies would say, where a bad guy could just recalibrate it and use its power, very much like anybody can climb into a car. Where Enlil at the time became the driver. Yes, Isaac, I know it takes on the whole new meaning of Jesus take the wheel. Yes, I understand. Well, actually, that was pretty creative. But actually, that was pretty funny. But and that's essentially true with that. So oh yeah, okay. Just like people having their own powers driven away from them in the same way by giving the power to having Jesus take the wheel. That's what you were saying. Okay. But still, that was creative. But anyway, the building that it would have to be housed in would have to be lead lined, like for a nuclear reactor, lead grounds. It's very heavy and dense and can absorb all sorts of energetic attacks and energetic everything. That's what they use it for nuclear reactors. And had to be very thick. The person involved would have to be, of course, is assigned to guard this, and this is why nobody else can see it. If the building would suddenly be torn down and opened up, if this manifestation of the ark would vanish and go back to the frequency in which the other end of the entanglement is on, probably another planet or another dimensional pocket. Other manifestations of it. Yeah, there's essentially, I'm being told there's only one Ark of the Covenant, and actually, ironically, it was Jesus that told me that it was a temporal stapling device at one point, where it could help staple timelines. I believe that was only one function. Another function I was told it held genetic samples, like with the contents of it. Both, I believe, could be true, but any manifestations of the ark are it's the same object from different time continuums. There's no more than one of them. And eventually they're all going to have to be returned to whatever time continuum they're being brought through from.
Probably could only use it for a limited amount of time, bring it outside of its housing and casing, use it just like the Sword of Time in Legend of Zelda series. Could be brought out for the time you're using it in the game, and it has to be put back in its pedestal but when you restore yourself to the proper timeline and energy state. It had to always be put back at its pedestal. So regardless, it can only be used for the mission and be put back. And I believe that's the same thing with the Ark of the Covenant. And also the Triforces in the game were kind of the same way, where they were disassembled and shattered, and you reassembled it, used it, and then it went to wherever it needed. So it was just kind of the same thing. Ironically, also with an Orion Nazi connotation to it, with the triangles and the little swastika type things with the shield and everything. But with the Eagle standard and everything that went along with it. But that's why they also had the Ark of the Covenant in Raiders of the Lost Ark, where of course it would burn the swastika and burn the Eagle standard that was on the outside of the crate. Granted, there are some energies that can be associated with it that would get rid of certain evil. That's just true. If you're not of the right frequency, it would melt your face off like it did the Nazis. That you would have to be of a certain energy frequency in order to operate and be around it. That's why the priest in Ethiopia is going blind. He's a prolonged exposure to a radioactive device that is extremely powerful. But could it be imbued with good energy, I suppose, to only oppose that of evil? Yeah, of course. But think of it as more neutrally based. But that's what. Also, focus on the device and making it more capable of being good. Focusing on it is affecting in all of its time continuous because it's frequency driven. Okay, so yes, Isaac. So Jesus is no longer at the wheel. Thank you. All right. Meaning Enlil's consciousness within it is then purged, and it's more back to a device type thing that anyone can use. But more of a mythos has been surrounding this. Okay. So it's interesting. It's the Triforce, the Sword of Time, and this were all compared as kind of the same thing. Right. And I believe also the Nimidium from Elder Scrolls falls into Ark of the Covenant as well, where it also had the ability to time fracture and create elements of Mandela effect schisms because it's coming from a different frequency and in multiple time frames. So I believe it's also the Numidium as well. Okay, that's confirmed as well. So yeah, that where it was where Tiber Septim took it, it was a ultimate device of power that nobody messed with him when he used it to rewrite time, and it can rewrite time to a particular frequency setting to particular frequency setting to dial it to a certain frequency, and then it can actually rewrite time and energy around it as well. So that's another function of the Ark. Okay. That's why it was compared to the Sword of Time as well, and the Numidium. Okay. And the Triforce being able to rewrite with the wishes of the person who touched it, very much like Genie's three wishes, with the bastardization of the three triangle. Yeah, okay. So it's all essentially the same reference. Okay. Okay. So I think, all right, I think that's the last. Now, any other downloads? Okay, I guess that'll be a different recording. All right, 1:56 p.m. Saturday, February 27th, 2021. Thank you. Sorry, addendum. One thing I want to add, the building that the Ark would be in would be more of a Faraday cage, keeping the frequency caged until it was released and then automatically went back to its point of origin. I didn't say that specifically, but I said as the building were opened or ripped apart. But the person inside would have to open and close the door quickly or not come outside at all, as what is usually seen in Ethiopia. So Okay, I'll stop now. It is 2:07 p.m. on Saturday, February 22nd or 27th, 2021. Thank you.